I remember hearing the words, "Prove your loyalty to me, King."
Those weren't just casual party rumors. This came straight from the mouth of one of Diddy's most trusted former insiders, and what he's revealing is sending shockwaves through the industry. According to him, the chaos behind Diddy's notorious freak-offs was just the tip of the iceberg. But brace yourself, it gets far more twisted. This former assistant didn't stop at describing the debauchery. He went on to name-drop 10 major celebrities, allegedly entangled in what he called the Diddy Circle, a tight-knit, high-profile clique with access to some of the darkest corners of the entertainment world. In this exposé, we're unpacking every jaw-dropping revelation, from explosive courtroom statements to the Hollywood elite, who are now nervously watching this all unfold. Enter to Philip Pines. Once the senior executive assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, a role he held from December 2019 through December 2021. Now Pines has taken the stand and started peeling back the curtain on a world most people only hear about in whispers, a world of unchecked power, loyalty tests, and dangerous indulgences. What Pines laid out is more than scandalous. It's potentially career-ending for multiple stars. Since November 2023, Diddy has been slapped with over 70 civil suits and federal investigations tied to serious charges like racketeering and trafficking. But what makes Philip's account uniquely damning is the level of access he had. He wasn't just on the sidelines, he was orchestrating logistics for Diddy's most secretive and depraved gatherings. That wasn't a metaphor, it was a demand, a ritual. And for Pines, it marked the beginning of nights where loyalty meant turning a blind eye to chaos. Now, to truly grasp the gravity of what's coming to light, you have to understand Pines' role. He wasn't just fetching lattes and scheduling flights. According to his sworn testimony, his job description included setting the stage for what were internally known as Wild King Nights. That meant prepping red-lit hotel suites with everything from baby oil and honey packs to illicit substances and party favors you won't find in any VIP bottle service menu. These weren't ordinary celebrity parties. Pines described them as drug-soaked, lawless marathons of excess, power plays, and exploitation. And what's more terrifying, Pines says, some of your favorite A-listers were not only aware of this world, they were deep in it.
Can y'all come straighten it up over here? Not looking luxurious.
For me, probably one of the hardest things to do. When you get there and you see the wreckage, you see the stains, you see the bodily fluids, you see the used condom, the baby oil half-used, the Astroglide oozing down the sides of the bottle, and you have to pick it up.
But the truly disturbing part? It wasn't just what went down during these so-called exclusive nights. It was what happened after. The lights dimmed and the guests disappeared. According to Pines, that's when the real damage control kicked in. He wasn't just an assistant. He was the flower cleanup crew for chaos. Pines claims he was routinely tasked with erasing every trace of what had taken place, wiping down surfaces to eliminate drug residue, scrubbing out bodily fluids from furniture and sheets, purging phones and cameras of any video evidence, and, perhaps most chilling, paying off hotel staff to keep their mouths shut. Cash was allegedly slipped under the table like tips, but it wasn't gratitude. It was hush money. It's the kind of behind-the-scenes operation you'd expect from a political fixer or a crisis manager, not a personal assistant. The goal was crystal clear. Protect the empire at all costs, and ensure that what happened in those rooms never saw the light of day.
It says that Diddy used so much baby oil during these events that he would often have to go provide him in the middle of the events. And he did say that to this day,
The smell of baby oil is something that, I don't ever want to have to.
But perhaps the most disturbing part of Philip Pines' testimony is what he says happened to him personally, a moment that crossed every line imaginable. Pines, in a raw and emotional interview featured in The Fall of Diddy docuseries, recounted one night that still haunts him. According to him, Diddy pressured him into having sex with a random woman at one of the parties, not out of desire, but as a twisted loyalty test. Pine says he was handed a condom, nudged toward a woman who seemed willing, and told it was time to prove himself. The guilt, he said, set in instantly. But the fear? That lingered for much longer. He stayed silent, afraid of what might happen if he spoke up. That kind of coercion goes way beyond inappropriate. It's psychological manipulation masked as initiation. Not part of a job, not part of any contract, just raw power dynamics being abused behind closed doors. Now, let's talk about the lineup of 10 public figures whose names have surfaced in connection with this expanding scandal. It's important to note that involvement levels vary. Some are formally named in lawsuits, others were mentioned in allegations with no legal action taken, yet, and all of them have publicly denied any wrongdoing. But the public scrutiny is turning up the heat, and fast. The NFL star was linked to an alleged violent gang assault that reportedly took place in 2018 in Orinda, California. The claim, added to a civil case in March 2025, alleges that OBJ, referred to by his middle name, Cornelius Mike, was involved in a group attack. OBJ has fiercely denied these allegations, taking to social media to state he wasn't in Orinda at the time and has never even met the woman accusing him, Ashley Parham. The case remains active. The comedian and entertainer is named in the same legal filing as OBJ. The accusations against him are graphic, alleging that he poured lubricant on Parham and treated her body in a dehumanizing manner before committing sexual assault. Drusky immediately responded via X, formerly Twitter, dismissing the claims as total fiction and pointing out that in 2018, he was living at home and had no industry connections whatsoever. Jay-Z was hit with an alarming accusation involving a 13-year-old girl allegedly drugged and assaulted following the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards. The story involves a limo driver, an NDA, and a drink that made the victim feel drugged. However, this lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice on February 15, 2025, meaning it cannot be refiled. Jay-Z fired back with a defamation suit calling the original allegations a coordinated blackmail attempt. The Oscar-winning actor is facing fresh allegations of assault, this time from by Rodney Lil Rod Jones, who claims Gooding groped him during a yacht gathering. Cuba's legal team has stayed silent so far, though his history of similar complaints makes this new claim even more alarming. Has been accused of sexually assaulting a 16-year-old girl named Liza Gardner in 1990, an incident that allegedly involved Diddy as well. The claim adds a chilling historical layer to the case, showing that these allegations may span over 3 decades. Hall has yet to respond publicly. Once the president of Bad Boy Records, Pierre is facing allegations of sexually assaulting and trafficking a 17-year-old girl in 2003. The accusations imply that this wasn't just about individual misconduct. It could point to a corrupt infrastructure embedded in the music label itself. Pierre has not released any public statement. Diddy's sons are also being dragged into the storm. Justin is accused of helping recruit party workers, including minors, and allegedly being present during a shooting incident. Christian, meanwhile, is facing claims of drugging and assaulting a woman named Grace Omar Mark during a 2022 yacht party. Justin's legal rep has dismissed the lawsuit as completely unhinged, but Christian has yet to comment publicly. Arabo is accused of committing sexual acts against a woman named Adria English at Diddy's instruction during one of his infamous all-white parties. The allegations paint him as an active participant in these dark gatherings. Arabo is named as a defendant in an ongoing suit. The producer and reality star isn't currently facing formal charges, but his name came up in connection to Rodney Jones's own claims. Jones alleges that Stevie J groomed and pressured him into engaging in non-consensual activities, all under the guise of mentorship. While not named as a defendant, the allegations are raising serious questions about his involvement in Diddy's inner circle. From 1990 to 2022, these allegations span over 30 years of alleged misconduct, suggesting a deeply rooted system of abuse and silence. If even a portion of this proves true, it could unravel the reputations, and possibly the freedom, of multiple powerful figures across entertainment, sports, and music. But beyond the legal consequences, this situation exposes a chilling culture of manipulation, coercion, and unchecked power that's been allowed to fester at the highest levels of fame. Now let's dive deeper into what Philip Pines described as the most terrifying part of his time with Diddy, the Wild King nights. These weren't glamorous affairs for Instagram or magazine spreads. According to Pines' court statements and private interviews, they were highly choreographed, underground bacchanals hosted at luxury hotels and secluded mansions. And the EII level of preparation required? Borderline military. We're talking full-room setups with red lighting, stocked drugs, mood-altering enhancers, baby oil, ice buckets, pre-selected guests, and a strict code of silence. Pine says he managed every logistical detail while operating under constant fear. Fear of disappointing Diddy. Fear of being seen as disloyal. Fear of what might happen if he ever stepped out of line. The deeper he went, the more he realized this wasn't just about partying. It was about control. And according to him, the entire empire was built around that one principle: obey or be replaced. After the chaos of those nights, Pine says the cleanup wasn't just physical, it was strategic. Every trace of what went down had to be erased, fast and quiet. And it wasn't just the aftermath that raised eyebrows, it was what went into the planning. According to Philip Pines, the setup for these events was disturbingly meticulous. He wasn't just an assistant, he was a logistics coordinator for debauchery. We're talking about a full inventory of party tools and substances that read more like a black market catalog than any party planner's checklist. And it wasn't just rumor. Pines came with receipts. He allegedly provided voice memos straight from Diddy himself, requesting very specific items in preparation for what he called Wild King Nights. These were not casual requests. They were part of an organized system of indulgence and excess. Pines claimed his job included prepping everything from red lighting to set the mood, ice buckets stacked for champagne bottles, and pre-rolled blunts ready to go. There were male enhancement packs, like honey shots and Cialis, for stamina, Astroglide, and baby oil for sexual acts, towels prepped for cleanup, and even mechanical sex devices referred to as power bangers. It didn't stop there. Hard drugs, like ketamine, were allegedly part of the rotation, ready to amp up the night's intensity. This wasn't a party. It was an engineered, hypersexualized experience, tailored to Diddy's whims. An underground operation, disguised as entertainment. And according to Pines, keeping it all under wraps was part of the job. No cameras, no questions, no trace. The picture painted is one of excess, funded, facilitated, and enforced. And Pine says he was right in the middle of it, doing what he was told, always watching his back.
They
Right.
just, so if you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous.
What Philip Pines described as the after-hours protocol paints a far more disturbing picture than the parties themselves. According to his sworn statements, the end of each Wild King night triggered what he called an emergency scrub-down. A cleanup operation so thorough it felt more like a crime scene cover-up than post-party maintenance. Pine says he was regularly forced to eliminate all physical traces of what went down, scrubbing surfaces, removing bodily fluids from sheets and upholstery, discarding used condoms, wiping blood or urine from furniture, and purging phones and surveillance footage of any compromising material. And when that wasn't enough, Pines claims he had to bribe hotel staff to keep their mouths shut about the wreckage left behind, effectively buying silence to keep the operation airtight. Broken glass, bloodstains, soaked mattresses, you name it, my job was to make it disappear, Pine said. But the real psychological toll, he reveals, came from the coercive situations he was forced into. In one of the most emotionally raw moments of The Fall of Diddy docuseries, Pines recounts a traumatic night when he says he was ordered to sleep with a woman at one of the parties as a twisted loyalty test. According to him, Diddy handed him a condom and pointed him toward a woman who seemed ready, implying it was a rite of passage. Pines says he felt violated, powerless to refuse, afraid of retaliation based on things he'd already witnessed. Pines also detailed acts of physical aggression, including a moment when Diddy allegedly kicked someone in Miami during an outburst. Even more chilling, he claims Diddy knowingly exposed a guest to COVID-19 during his 51st birthday celebration. A reckless move that spoke volumes about a broader culture of disregard. The workplace dynamic, Pines insists, was shaped by fear. Everyone walked on eggshells. He recalls being summoned back to Diddy's place just to look for a remote control. Small but deliberate power plays meant to reinforce control and test loyalty. This atmosphere of intimidation, according to Pines, extended beyond assistants and staffed to celebrities who orbited Diddy's world. What makes this especially explosive is Pines' assertion that many of these nights were filmed, a claim that could potentially implicate multiple high-profile figures. These allegations align with statements made by Courtney Burgess, who says he's in possession of sex tapes featuring Diddy and various celebrities, reportedly passed to him by Kim Porter, Diddy's late ex-partner, shortly before her mysterious death in 2018. The alleged existence of these tapes is hotly contested. While Burgess maintains they're real, Diddy has gone on the legal offensive, launching a $50 million defamation lawsuit against Burgess, attorney Ariel Mitchell, and News Nation, accusing them of manufacturing lies for media attention. Still, the overlap between Pines' insider knowledge and Burgess's bombshell claims deepens the mystery. Pines didn't explicitly name all 10 celebrities facing legal heat, but his testimony establishes a clear framework, a toxic ecosystem of exploitation and control that may have allowed or even encouraged others to participate. Take the Boer case of Odell Beckham Jr. and comedian Drusky, whose alleged actions took place during a 2018 party in Orinda, California, well before Pines joined Diddy's team. Yet the nature of those accusations, involving group assault and coerced acts, mirrors the patterns Pines describes: chaotic environments, no accountability, and a twisted sense of invincibility among the attendees. Similarly, Jacob the Jeweler, Arab was named in connection to Diddy's infamous white parties, elite gatherings described by adult entertainer Adria English as breeding grounds for sexual coercion. Her claims of being forced into sex at Diddy's command resonate disturbingly with the atmosphere Pines depicts, an environment where consent and power were dangerously imbalanced. Even more unsettling are the allegations involving Diddy's own sons, Justin and Christian Combs. Justin is accused of facilitating access to underage girls, while Christian allegedly drugged and assaulted a woman aboard a yacht in 2022. These aren't just isolated claims. They hint at a systemic cultural normalization of exploitative behavior that may have passed from one generation to the next. Widening. The timeline, the legal cases against Aaron Hall and Harve Pierre, dating back to 1990 and 2003 respectively, indicate that the alleged misconduct wasn't a new phenomenon. If Pines' account holds weight, we could be looking at a network of abuse that spanned 3 decades, touching multiple eras of music and Hollywood culture. To make matters even murkier, a resurfaced 2002 interview with Diddy has gone viral in recent months. In it, he makes questionable jokes about locking women inside rooms during parties and purposely keeping the air conditioning off to loosen people up with the heat and alcohol, a comment that, at the time, might have been dismissed as dark humor, but now rings with ominous implications given the current flood of allegations. Ultimately, Pines' testimony, if proven credible, could be the key that cracks open a much larger pattern of celebrity misconduct and unchecked abuse of power in the entertainment industry. It suggests that what the world once saw as extravagant, over-the-top celebrations may have, behind closed doors, concealed something far more sinister.
Think I could book that for like the weekend of the 14th when the soundtrack comes out? If so, bump somebody. All right, thanks. All right, love you, man. Bye. I got my MTV out. Savage! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get! Whatever I want, I have to get! Yes! What's next? What's next? I gotta get it. I'm not gonna stay down.
It's crucial to acknowledge that Sean Diddy Combs has firmly denied all accusations made against him. His legal representatives have repeatedly emphasized that, no matter how many lawsuits are filed, it doesn't change the truth. Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted or trafficked anyone, regardless of age or gender. The team remains publicly confident that they'll beat the charges in court and has sharply criticized the media narrative, particularly the Fall of Diddy documentary, for presenting what they call a biased and inflammatory portrayal of events, particularly when it features testimony like Philip Pines. As of May 8, 2025, the courtroom battle is fully underway. Jury selection began on May 5th, and opening statements are scheduled for May 12th. Diddy's facing serious federal charges: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation with intent to engage in prostitution. He has entered a plea of not guilty on all counts, and, notably, rejected a plea deal offered on May 1st, signaling his intent to fight the charges head-on in front of a jury. The scale of the legal storm surrounding Diddy is massive. Over 70 civil suits have been filed against him, with powerhouse attorney Tony Busby reportedly representing 60 men and 60 women, 25 of whom were allegedly underage when the events in question occurred. That volume makes this one of the most significant legal reckonings in the history of the entertainment world, spanning decades and potentially involving hundreds of victims. But it's not just Diddy in the legal crosshairs. The network of individuals named across related lawsuits includes some of the industry's biggest names. Odell Beckham Jr. and comedian Drusky are listed as active defendants in civil cases. Others, like Jay-Z, initially faced suits that were later dropped but are now launching defamation counterclaims in response to being publicly tied to the scandal. Stevie J, for instance, has been repeatedly named in allegations, but has yet to face formal legal action. Meanwhile, Adria English, the former adult film performer who accused Jacob, the jeweler, Arab, of raping her at Diddy's behest during one of the infamous white parties, has run into serious legal setbacks. Her first legal team walked away from the case in October 2024, citing erratic behavior and irreconcilable differences. A second legal group withdrew in March 2025, citing a breakdown in trust and English's alleged unwillingness to follow legal counsel. The situation is equally murky in the case of Courtney Burgess. He claims to possess sex tapes implicating Diddy and other celebrities, allegedly handed to him by Kim Porter shortly before her death. Diddy has categorically denied this and hit back with a $50 million defamation suit in January 2025 against Burgess, his lawyer Ariel Mitchell, and News Nation, accusing them of concocting stories for media buzz. Burgess's book, Kim's Lost Word, which he claimed was based on Porter's personal journals, was abruptly pulled from Amazon following a cease and desist from Porter's sons, who labeled the content fraudulent. Whether the tapes exist or not remains uncertain, but their alleged presence has added another layer of media frenzy to the case.
You need alcohols.
Right.
Alcohols.
Right. Just different blend. You need the ladies, you need the booze.
You need some water.
On the evidence front, authorities have moved aggressively. Over 90 electronic devices, including cell phones, hard drives, and laptops, were seized from Diddy's properties. Prosecutors have stated that the data retrieved includes video recordings of explicit acts, so-called freak-offs, that corroborate multiple witness testimonies. If verified, this digital evidence could play a critical role in substantiating some of the most damning claims. Beyond the legalities, these cases raise profound concerns about power structures, silence, and systemic abuse within the entertainment industry. With allegations dating as far back as 1990 and as recent as 2022, the scope of the accusations suggests a sustained and deeply embedded pattern of behavior that may have persisted unchecked for decades. Philip Pines' testimony is central to this narrative. His detailed descriptions of prepping sex kits, sourcing party drugs, and sanitizing crime scene-like aftermaths point toward a coordinated system, not isolated incidents. What he outlines seems less like celebrity chaos and more like a well-oiled machine designed to enable, obscure, and protect illicit activity. A particularly unsettling element is the alleged role of Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Courtroom, who's been compared in court documents to Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's infamous enabler. That analogy alone frames this case not just as a celebrity scandal, but as a sprawling criminal conspiracy involving powerful gatekeepers and vulnerable victims. The psychological climate within Diddy's camp, as described by Pines, was shaped by fear and control. Staff and associates allegedly operated under a silent code: comply or be cast out. The threat wasn't just job loss, it was blacklisting, retaliation, or worse. Pines claims that many in the inner circle kept quiet not because they didn't see the wrongdoing, but because speaking out seemed suicidal for their careers, or even their safety. This alleged pattern of silence and complicity is echoed across other sectors tied to the scandal. The accused span nearly every major industry niche: Jay-Z and Aaron Hall from music, Stevie J from reality TV, Odell Beckham Jr. from sports, Drusky from comedy, and Cuba Gooding Jr. from acting. It's a web that cuts across genres and demographics, an indictment of the culture that allowed influence and celebrity to insulate people from consequences. Particularly alarming are the lawsuits involving individuals who were allegedly underage at the time of the abuse. Reports reference victims as young as 13, 16, and 17, reinforcing a narrative that suggests not only criminal misconduct, but moral depravity, targeting vulnerable minors within a system that appeared built to protect the powerful. The question of timing, why so many people are coming forward now, is answered in part by the strength in numbers effect. Pines himself pointed to the same phenomenon seen during the Me Too movement. Survivors often stay silent when they believe they're alone, but find the courage to speak out once others take the risk first. What we may be witnessing in the Diddy case is a tipping point, where a few voices have triggered a wave of others who were once too afraid to share their truths. At the heart of all this is the credibility of the claims. As the court battle unfolds, that's what everything hinges on. The coming weeks will determine whether these allegations withstand the scrutiny of legal cross-examination or fall apart under pressure. Either way, the case has already changed the way the industry looks at power, privacy, and protection. Ultimately, it will be the courts, not public opinion, that determine the truth. While the allegations are serious and far-reaching, it's important to acknowledge that not every claim has gone unchallenged. Some cracks have already appeared in a few high-profile stories. Take the case involving Jay-Z, for example. In an NBC News interview, the accuser walked back key parts of her account. Most notably, her claim that she spoke with Benji Madden at a party. Records showed Madden was on tour in another country at the time, casting doubt on that element of her timeline. That doesn't necessarily mean her entire story is false, but it highlights how details, especially those involving events from years ago, can become problematic when scrutinized. Similar credibility concerns have surfaced around Courtney Burgess. Initially, he claimed the alleged sex tapes he received from Kim Porter contained explicit content involving Diddy and other celebrities. But under pressure during follow-up inquiries, his descriptions shifted to what he then called non-sexual footage. That inconsistency has drawn significant attention and cast a long shadow over his claims. These contradictions don't mean every allegation is baseless, but they do show how murky and complex evaluating decades-old accusations can be, especially when many stories rely on memory, undocumented events, and disputed timelines. The accused have responded in very different ways. Odell Beckham Jr. and Drusky went straight to social media to shut down the accusations. Beckham specifically stated he wasn't even in Orinda, California, when the incident supposedly occurred and insisted he's never met the woman making the claim. Jay-Z not only denied the allegations against him, but counterpunched with a defamation lawsuit after the initial case was dropped, asserting the woman admitted her story was false. Her attorney disputes that assertion, keeping the matter entangled in legal uncertainty. Others, like Cuba Gooding Jr. and Aaron Hall, have remained publicly silent. No statements, no press appearances, no comments. Their silence stands in contrast to the more aggressive legal and public relations strategies of others entangled in the saga. Diddy, for his part, has stuck to a hardline denial. Through his attorneys, he's continued to assert his innocence and has labeled the legal assault against him a coordinated smear campaign. His legal team has filed motions to implement gag orders, arguing that media coverage has been wildly prejudicial and harmful. According to them, the narrative being shaped in the press, especially with projects like The Fall of Diddy, offers a distorted, one-sided picture that could poison a fair trial. Yet the sheer volume of allegations, spanning decades, involving over 100 plaintiffs, and echoing similar patterns, makes those denials harder to sustain in the court of public perception. Even if inconsistencies exist in individual stories, the broader pattern is harder to dismiss. It's a tightrope walk, weighing the severity of the allegations against the presumption of innocence, which remains a fundamental pillar of justice. The challenge for the courts will be to separate fact from fiction, determine the credibility of witnesses, and decide whether the evidence meets the burden of proof for the criminal and civil charges on the table. But beyond the courtroom, these proceedings are forcing society to confront deeper, systemic questions about how fame, fortune, and unchecked influence have created environments where abuse could allegedly flourish for years, even decades. If these allegations are substantiated, they won't just expose the sins of individuals, they'll shine a light on a broken system that allowed it all to happen under the guise of celebrity glamour. The timing of these revelations is no coincidence. Post-Me Too, there's been a cultural shift. More survivors are speaking up, and law enforcement seems more willing to pursue cases that would have been considered radioactive in the past. There's a growing sense that powerful figures are no longer untouchable, and the legal system is beginning to catch up with the social reckoning. As Diddy's trial moves into opening statements on May 12th, all eyes will be on the courtroom. What happens there, and in the mounting civil suits still in motion, will either vindicate the accused or validate the voices of those who say they were wronged. Either outcome will send shockwaves through the entertainment industry, prompting a reevaluation of how power, accountability, and justice are handled when the spotlight finally turns inward. At the heart of this legal firestorm, the entertainment industry is being forced into a long-overdue confrontation with its own demons. The mounting accusations against Sean "Diddy" Combs and a cohort of high-profile celebrities have triggered a wave of introspection across Hollywood, pulling back the curtain on power structures that have historically gone unchecked. The question now looming over the entire industry: have the existing checks and balances ever truly protected those most vulnerable? For survivors, people like Philip Pines and others, the courtroom has become both a potential path to justice and a battleground where their credibility will be dissected and tested. They're not just facing legal resistance from teams of high-powered attorneys, they're enduring the judgment of a public still deeply influenced by the myth of celebrity. Coming forward in this climate isn't just brave, it's a revolutionary act that underscores how far the culture has shifted since the days when silence was the only safe option. It's worth reflecting on how deeply ingrained Diddy's image has been in the cultural psyche. In his heyday, his power was so outsized that even someone as notoriously unfiltered as Mike Tyson reportedly treaded carefully around him. That dynamic was captured in one unsettling moment, now being reanalyzed in light of recent revelations.